Hi, I'm Dr. Greg Ellis, and we're going to wage war on the healthy eating population. It's time. With the glycation theory of aging and disease now well established, but not well known, we're going to look at the war that's going to unfold. Now, it's time, guys, to go beyond the low-carb diet and weight control. We've got to expand our horizons, and that is becoming more and more accepted, that the low-carb diet contributes to weight control. And there are many people even talking about the low-carb diet being healthy. Now, of course, that's counter to everything you hear out there. And as we promote this message and put it out there, there's going to be a war that's going to unfold, because the established people will not want to give up their current belief system. That's just the way the world works. They're not going to want to do it. So now, as we close down this cholesterol era as a failed belief system, it was all wrong, and we now understand that it was always about glycation. We've got to go beyond cholesterol. We've got to talk about what glycation is going to do to destroy our health. So it's about health now, not just about weight control. The weight control can take care of itself when you know how to do weight control. And I've written that all up in my books. The step-by-step procedure, just take it out of your hand and just follow what I teach you, and you don't have to worry about anything else. Again, weight control is one of the simplest things on the planet. But you got to do and take each step as it comes, and you got to quit resisting, and you got to quit looking at all the ideas that are out there. Forget about it. Drop it. Just do what I tell you to do, and you will solve the weight control problem. That's easy. But we have to understand the low-carb diet and health. Now, the implications of the low-carb diet is that you're going to drive the body to predominantly burn fat as its primary source of fuel. Now, it's already set up to do that. That's how you're programmed. It'll burn what you feed it. If you feed it a lot of carbohydrates, it'll burn the carbohydrates, and that will slow down the body's ability to move fat. Now, in every single cell of your body, there's little organelles called mitochondria. You need to understand mitochondria. You need to empower your mitochondria. Mitochondria, death and degradation is one of the keys to rapid aging. So if your mitochondria are not strong and you're not giving them what they need, then age and the diseases of aging are going to be your bedfellow. No way around that. So we have to talk about that issue, because the so-called healthy diet is a diet that will destroy your mitochondria, because your mitochondria want to process fat as the primary fuel of the body. And if the mitochondria can't do that, and they can't if you're eating a high-carb diet, because the high-carb diet will create an imbalance and create a situation in which the enzyme systems of your body produce fat from the carbohydrate. And that, in turn, the substance that is manufactured, in turn, comes into the mitochondria and blocks the ability of your mitochondria to take up fat. We know one of the key things that we want to try and do to prevent aging is to drive more fat through the mitochondria. And this can be accomplished in a number of ways. You can eat more fat and less carbohydrate, make your fat available to the mitochondria. You can exercise. Exercise automatically turns on adjustments in your body that will cause the body to burn more fat as its source of fuel. And that will drive more fat through the mitochondria. All of these things will decelerate the aging process. Now, the mitochondria are very, very interesting little guys. You just imagine it looks like this. And it's got a bunch of folds in it. And in those folds, there's a bunch of enzymes that process all these different things. Your body actually has a surveillance system set up that looks at these mitochondria and looks to see if they're damaged or if they're getting damaged. Now, through the process of glycation, you're going to form inflammatory products. You're going to form reactive oxygen species. these things will damage the mitochondria. They'll disturb the way this matrix in there folds upon itself. So that's a damaged mitochondria. That has got to get eaten up. So the body actually has a process called autophagy. And autophagy is the body watching the mitochondria because it understands the importance of mitochondria to health. And if it sees damaged mitochondria, it might try and correct them. If it seems that it's too far gone, it'll eat it. The body will release something called proteases. And these proteases will break down all the proteins in the mitochondria. And they are made of proteins. And then you'll rebuild new ones. So this is the process that we've got to keep in mind. Now, our two pancreatic hormones, the ones that we talk about in terms of regulating the way the body distributes and partitions fuel, are insulin and glucagon. Insulin is a storage hormone. Insulin will slow autophagy. Glucagon will stimulate it. And this is another one of the reasons for the success of calorie restriction in reducing aging, because the starving, the hunger, because of the calorie restriction, stimulates the release of this glucagon, and that in turn stimulates autophagy. So there's ways we can manipulate this stuff to turn it on. There's also nutritional supplements that I'm going to be putting together. I'm going to write a short ebook on this describing the different supplements that you can use to stimulate the anti-glycation effect. And that's ultimately what we're talking about. We're trying to get away from glycation. And that's what the war is going to settle on. People are going to deny that regardless. 7,000 published papers in the scientific literature, and many will just simply deny that they exist. That's the way they hold their status quo. So it's going to be an interesting war. I'm preparing for it myself because I want to be the forerunner out in the media describing the process of glycation and how it's damaging our health. Let the other stuff fall into place, the weight control and the other things that we need to understand. But we've got to get ready for this war on glycation. And you've got to prepare. So I love all the people coming to the site who are doing low carb. But let's move on. Let's talk in more depth about things like autophagy and not spend all day talking about weight control and counting calories and all the micromanaging that we're going through, because there's bigger fish to fry. And I don't know how old many of my readers are. I'm obviously a senior citizen, and some of my people could be young, but a lot of them I'm sure are in the 30s and 40s. So you're all going to be facing this aging process soon. And you don't want to accelerate it. You want to slow it. And we can do that now by avoiding the carbohydrates and preventing the development of glycation. So that's where the battlefront's going to be. And the key ingredient to this battlefront is an understanding and a description of what's happening to your mitochondria. There's a wealth of information out there, a wealth of research papers out there describing the mitochondria and their role in the aging process. So we've got the goods now. We've got the goods for the argument. You'll never see anything about cholesterol within the context of this argument. Cholesterol has nothing to do with it. Never did anything to do with it. Of course, fat was tarred and feathered, but fat is what we want to burn. The body wants to burn fat. The use of fat as a primary fuel is important to the anti-aging process. And the establishment doesn't understand that either. But they don't really understand anything about the way the body processes food as fuel. And as I was talking to someone the other day, the body wants to primarily burn fat. In fact, it wants to burn ketone bodies. So if it's burning ketone bodies, they have an experiment that they did where they prepare a rat and they expose its back side and they feed it different fuels. And when you feed the rat ketones and oleate, which is a source of free fatty acids, and glucose is only used 4%. The primary ketone body is used 91% as the primary source of fuel. So the body's muscles prefer to burn fat in the form of ketones. And that's what we're doing with this diet setup. We're having your diet get adjusted to using ketones as the primary source of fuel. And that's the value of the low-carb diet. And that's the value of the low-carb diet to improve your health. And this is what it's all going to come down to. We've got to fight for our health. We've got to fight for the establishment of a new belief system in what is actually healthy eating versus what is unhealthy. And the current recommended healthy eating is very unhealthy. That's going to be a major battlefront because everybody's been so indoctrinated in the idea that low-fat eating is the way to go. That's going to take a great deal to unseat that. So we're going to have to carry this war out in the trench level, on the individual by individual basis, getting one voice at a time, one thought process at a time, if that's what it's going to take to do this until we create enough of a push, enough of an army where we can start to drive this thing deeper and deeper into the population. So that's what I want you to understand about glycation, the mitochondria, anti-aging, and the acquisition of abundant health. That's what we're talking about. I'm Dr. Greg Ellis.